Hi there, I'm Steve, Sailing Allison. I'm on a bit of a catch-up here. I've got loads of stuff that needs putting together and editing and putting on YouTube. So in this video, I've got as far as the beginning of May, and this is where the long-awaited electric motor finally arrives. So we've got a bit of an unboxing going on. I show it all coming together. And the other thing that I'm doing is I've got a little bit of a problem with the connection between the isolating transformer and the inverter charger, and I show you how I resolve that. So on with the show. So here's the first box. Let's see what's inside. All looks pretty well packed. So let's see. We've got assembly manual, lots of bits of foam. So this looks like the on-off switch and battery charge level meter, I think. So this is cool. So this is the forward reverse throttle. And it's absolutely gorgeous. It's like milled from solid and it's got a really smooth movement. I'm very, very impressed by that. Beautiful. Look at that. The battery display cable. Now let's see what's under here. Lots of bits of foam. There we go. So this is the controller. This big chunk of metal. Here's the motor control unit. So it looks fairly simple. Battery plus, 2 motor, battery minus. What have we got here? Control fuse, battery display, throttle unit. It's everything. Looks very simple to connect up. Super. And Charlie's inspecting it as well. So here we are on the boat, and the first thing I've worried about, which was whether the control unit would fit into the space, has worked out perfectly. Look at that. I could have designed it to fit there. So that's great news. Because once this lot's been tidied up, that will all work really, really well. So that's great. Hello there, it's May Day bank holiday. It's absolutely freezing cold, it's wet and miserable. I've actually had to shut the companionway completely because it's so cold. On Saturday, I had a really good day until the very last thing. So I got the consumer unit that's on the output of the inverter charger all wired up, and I've wired it into a double plug, so that's all working. And I tested it, wired the battery up to a switch so I can switch it on and off. And I've got a little resistor as well that allows me to charge up the capacitors on the inverter charger before switching it on. That all works a treat. I've wired it up to a double socket, which is like nicely out of the way. I tried all that out, managed to boil a cup of tea using the inverter, so that was great. Then I wired the output of the RCD that was on the output of the insulation transformer into the inverter charger, and that's where it went wrong. So everything seems to fire up properly, but as soon as the relay in the inverter charger clicks in so that it's passing through the mains from the shore power rather than using the inverter, the RCD trips out. I've done loads of research on the internet. I really can't find a clear answer to it. Victron imply that there should be at least a circuit breaker between the output of the isolating transformer and the input of the inverter charger, but they don't say that there should be a residual current detector. or it's a residual current device. Now, they do say that you should have an RCD on the output, the isolating transformer. The people that I've seen seem to wire the two directly together. Nobody seems to talk about this. One of the things that I've found is that I think that the standard RCDs don't handle the kind of load from an inverter charger properly. So I've been thinking about this, and one of the things I think is maybe because it's a very short piece of wire, then maybe like there's too much of a reactive pulse when the relay clicks shut. What I'm going to do is I'm going to bypass the isolating transformer and wire the shore power in to the input of the inverter charger. Now that should be safe because I've got an RCD that's just like where the shore power comes into the boat. So that's still going to protect me. What the isolating transformer is doing is really protecting against earth differences. So I think that as a temporary measure, just to see whether it works, because my theory is that the longer run of line will add enough capacitance in so that you don't get this kind of power spike. So I'm going to try that now and see if I can wire them together. The other option is that there are different types of RCDs that can handle more complex loads. I think there's 3 different options that I could choose, and I might just buy one of each and just see which one works the best. So that's my plan for today. The other thing that we did yesterday was brought the motor down, and I'll show you what that's like. It's absolutely tiny. You can't believe it. It must be smaller than the gearbox of the old engine. So I'll show you what I mean now. So here you can see the motor. Like, this is my hand on it. You can see like it's the width of my hand. So that's the back. There's the output drive. There's a belt here, and then there's the drive shaft. And so it's going to go into this space here. There's the flange for the prop shaft, and really it's just going to fit in here. You know, so I think what I need to do is put some mounts here and here and just kind of line it all up. And I was wondering whether I would need like a kind of slope thing where the companionway steps were, but I think that this will end up just being completely boxed in, which is absolutely amazing, really. Hello, this is Steve, sailing Allison. It's a horrible day in May. Absolutely throwing it down with rain, blowing probably a 6-7, really nasty. So I've come down to the boat today, and I've got a few things that I want to achieve. Firstly, I've got all the bits that came from eBay that I ordered last week. So I want to add a resistor circuit in, which will allow me to recharge the capacitors on the inverter at the push of a button in case I ever have to turn the battery off. I think this will make it a lot easier because at the moment I have to clip on an extra resistor, so it's a bit of a faff. This will kind of make it automatic. I mean, it's not like I'm going to be turning the batteries on and off an awful lot, but you know, it does make it a whole lot easier. Second thing I'm going to do is I've now got all of the cable for the wiring up the motor and the motor controller, so I'm going to get that done. And lastly, I've got the new RCD which I'm going to put between the isolating transformer and the inverter charger. This is a different spec, and hopefully this will not trip when the inverter charger switches from inverting to pass through. So fair number of tasks today. I mean, the exciting thing was actually if I get the motor wired up and see it all whirring away. So let's see how far we get. But the first thing I need to do is sweep away all of the water from the cockpit before it turns into a swimming pool. So I need to put some waterproofs on for that. Right, we've got it wired in now. So I've got it across the main switch. And the idea is that when the battery has been turned off for quite a long time, then there's a push button there, and you press that button, leave it depressed for about a minute or so, because it's a 1k resistor, so it'll charge up quite slowly. And then once the capacitors have had the chance to charge up a bit, then I can turn the battery on. Of course, this lot is all going to be tidied up, and there's going to be like a front to this box, and I'll put both the push button and the switch on the front so that I can get at both of them. So there we go, that's working. That's the first bit. So it's all wired up now. As before, this is only temporary. This is not how it's going to be. And here's the motor. So I've got the on-off switch, and this is a battery monitor. Yeah. And then here's the lever. So if I do this, there we go. And then the other direction. It's all good. Hi there. You might remember I was having problems with the connection between the isolating transformer and the inverter charger. And what was happening was that the RCD was tripping. So I did a little bit of research, and what I found out was that probably the standard RCD doesn't really work there. So I've got another one, to be specific, a type A, and I've wired it into the box. So it's all there. And I'm now going to wire it in between the isolating transformer and the inverter charger. Now, if this doesn't work, I think that I could probably just bypass the RCD and just use the circuit breaker, because it's pretty safe. I mean, I've got an RCD where the shore power comes in. I've got another RCD on the output of the inverter charger. So really, this is just protecting that little bit between the isolating transformer and the inverter charger. Anyway, I'm going to give it a go and see what happens. So here it is. This is the one. Of course, it's not quite the same size as the previous one, but managed to make it fit in. I'm just going to give it a go now. Luckily, I took the precaution of marking which one was the output cable, so I don't have to take it apart to figure out which way round to wire it. Not that I think it'll particularly make any difference. I mean, you know, this is kind of very simple inside, so I think if you wired it the wrong way around, it wouldn't really affect anything. Anyway, gonna give it a go now. So we've got to crawl into here. That's the inverter charger. Behind it's the isolating transformer. I think first thing to do is to make sure that the mains is disconnected. It's always a good idea just to test whether your RCD is working. Now, as you can see, that green light there tells me that the inverter has just kicked in. So everything has just changed. This is my gas alarm. Not that I have any gas on the boat anymore, and you can see it's still on. Okay, so that is all wired up again. I did turn everything off, so I'm going to go through the startup sequence. I'm going to turn the battery on first, and then connect the mains, see what happens. So hopefully the capacitors on the inverter charger won't have discharged too much. but I am going to give it like a little boost using my little switch here. Okay, and now let's turn it on. I'll need 2 hands for this. Right, we're on. Let's turn the inverter charger on again. There we go, so that's the inverter turning on. Now let's try plugging in and switching on the mains. So that has done the trick. It's flipped over from the inverter to the charger, and it hasn't flipped out the RCD, so we're all good to go now, which is great news. You can hear it charging up. Yeah, it's doing bulk charge, probably just because I was running the motor a little bit and I've just discharged the battery a bit.